Sickle cell is actually the UK's number one most common genetic condition.
Really?
Absolutely.
More than
cystic fibrosis, which is second.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the statistics are that 1 in 2,000 live births in the UK are
babies with sickle
sickle cell, whereas 1 in 2,500 is cystic fibrosis. Now, if we look at how much research funding goes to both of those, it becomes staggering. So according to the National Institute of Health Research, in 2021, if we take that as an example, around 190,000, just under 200,000, was put into sickle cell disease research. But for cystic fibrosis, which is the second most common genetic condition, over 500,000.
Wow.
Over 500,000 was put into research into cystic fibrosis. The only difference I can really see is that sickle cell disease predominantly affects Africans and African Caribbeans, whereas cystic fibrosis predominantly affects Northern Europeans or white people, Caucasian people.
Roots and rigor, rigor and flow. Roots and rigor, rigor and flow. Roots and rigor, rigor and flow. Rigor and flow.
1. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very wonderful. Yeah. Can you believe we're at episode 15?
I can believe it because we've been putting in the work.
We sure have.
It's been a lot of work. So with that staring in my face, I'm like, yes, episode 15.
You are feeling.
I feel it.
What episode does it actually feel like to you?
It feels like episode 115.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Not in a bad way. I'm enjoying doing the show, that's for sure. But it certainly feels like we've done a lot of work. Because we are doing all of the work ourselves as opposed to, having the whole team do it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess because, for me, I just feel like it's incredible that we've banked 15 episodes. Like, who knew we had that much to say?
That's the thing. And actually, one of the things I worry about is like, will we run out of things to say? But hopefully our community reaches out and asks us questions. Obviously, we're living life.
We're living life. And so long as our friends are around us and our people, you guys interacting, sending us questions and doing all that good stuff, then we're fine.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, should we say what our podcast is actually called?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go on then.
This is Rigour Flow with me, Aiwan.
And me, Tamanda, the show where business meets love.
And culture meets critique.
Lovely.
What are we talking about today?
Well, it's another Notes from the Margins series.
Notes from the Margins.
Right. Well, each of us brings something we want to discuss.
Yep.
And then in the final section of the episode, we respond to a question, a thought, a provocation from someone listening, someone in our community. So the question is, what are you bringing to Notes from the Margins today?
So today, I want to talk about the importance of Black doctors. I've had some experiences personally of that.
I am bringing a conversation about the world of charity, and I'm going to focus specifically on Save the Children as a charity.
And then our last thing is a question from the community around our use of the word queer, which should be interesting. So that's us for today. Should we dive in?
Let's dive in. Okay, so tell me, what is it that made you bring the subject of Black doctors today?
I think because some people may or may not know, but I have sickle cell trait. The full disease is sickle cell anemia, but I'm a carrier of the genetic predisposition or the genetic... I don't know how you would say it. I'm a carrier of it, really.
Well, what is sickle cell, first and foremost? Because not everybody will know.
Okay, so sickle cell anemia is a genetic condition that causes some of your blood cells to be shaped like a sickle as opposed to a circular red blood cell, right? So some of your red blood cells are basically the wrong shape. They're sickle shaped. Think of it like is it like a crescent moon almost?
Yes, exactly.
Is how I would describe it.
Or like a little bean.
Or
somehow,
a little bean, yeah, exactly. Now, your red blood cells carry oxygen around your body to your muscles and wherever else needs it. If your blood cell is that shape that we just described, sickle or crescent shaped, it can't carry as much oxygen to the parts of your body that need it. Yeah. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is because of the shape of it, it's kind of not is it
ergonomically moving around the vessels.
It's not streamlined.
Oh, I didn't know that about it.
Yeah, so the shape of a normal blood cell can move quite easily because it's round, and so it flows quite easily. Whereas that sickle shape means that they bunch together.
So they kind of coagulate. Does it cause clotting or something then?
It causes blockages. So like when it's trying to move, when your blood is trying to move over your joints and they're sickle shaped, they kind of...
Yeah, I can imagine like Tetris-y bunching into each other. I did not know that.
And that causes severe, severe pain.
Really?
So you're not getting enough oxygen and you're getting these horrific pains in different parts of your body. So you end up having to go to hospital. They have to give you fluids. There's so many, I mean, it's really quite a minefield. Now, the issue with sickle cell anemia is that it predominantly affects African and African Caribbean people. Asians are affected to some degree, and people from the Middle East and so on are affected, but not at the rate that we are.
I was looking into sickle cell, mostly because there's a guy that I really love, which we'll come to, but they were saying it's actually about ancestry and where you've lived, because it's associated with regions that have malaria.
Exactly.
And so that's why Black people may have it more in higher numbers, because the continent, malaria is just much more common on the continent of Africa.
Exactly. It's kind of protective in a way.
Yeah.
Because malaria is a mosquito sucking your blood and then obviously injecting the virus or whatever it is, the malaria microbe. I don't know what it is. Is it a virus?
I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not going to pretend to be one. I'm a doctor of philosophy and sociology. I'm not even going to pretend I know. I'm drawing on your lived experience here. So I don't know. But
in
anyway,
essence,
you do get...
In essence, you know, having that shaped blood cell to some degree protects you from malaria. So it makes sense that it would evolve in areas where people are more prone to and exposed to malaria.
And from what I know, the doctors don't like us to say
they
that.
Don't like
they
you
want
saying
everyone
it.
to take
malaria
anti-malaria tablets.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether you have sickle cell or not. But that is one of the things that gets said, right?
Exactly.
Okay. But can I ask you a question?
Of course, yeah.
So you have sickle cell traits, rather than full sickle cell anemia. How did you first discover that, and what has it meant for you to have?
So it runs in my family.
Yeah.
And obviously in the UK, we have a pretty good health system. And so it was picked up in my bloods.
What age? When you were an infant? Or?
I think quite young.
Okay.
Yeah, because they do all your tests and stuff, I think, when you're quite young. And then when I got to around the age of 12 or 13, I actually started to have symptoms of sickle cell. And I had a few hospital stints as a result of it and had to be on intravenous...
Iron, presumably?
No, it wasn't iron, although I am anemic. It was the fluids, you know, is it the saline?
Yeah.
So I had to have those sorts of fluids and I was in hospital for a few days as a result of having the trait. But obviously, because I've also got anemia and a couple of other things, it was maybe a mix of things in that instance. I was young, so I don't have the medical records to know, but I just know that I was in hospital and it was as a result of sickle cell trait.
And can it be life-threatening? Like how,
Absolutely.
What does it mean?
The mortality rate for sickle cell anemia sufferers is very high. You know, if you live past 30, 40, you're doing well. So one of my favourite artists growing up was TLC. And
I love
them.
Lisa Left Eye Lopez, Cherry.
No. Cherry.
Cherry.
Cherry. Hey, you were not a fan like me.
No, do you know what I think
T-Boz,
that is?
Left Eye, and Chili.
T-Boz's voice.
TLC.
I know T-Boz's voice though.
Oh,
do you know why I think I'm said cherry is because in our culture, when you're like the slang word for your partner is my cherry, and so I feel
you
like
don't call me that.
I will.
Okay, you better.
Chili is my cherry.
Chili was my cherry, that's for sure.
I do remember saying that. She was
hot.
She was hot, but she wasn't my favourite of them.
Who was your favourite?
I like T-Bozz's voice.
Yeah,
I like a strong voice.
I love T-Bozz's voice,
know.
really husky. But in terms
And I like
of looks,
Left Eye. I think I wanted to be Left
I
Eye.
wanted to be Left Eye from a rap perspective.
Yeah.
But I fancied Chili, wanted to be Left Eye, and loved T-Bozz's voice. That was basically it. So they were the perfect group for me.
Okay. I love it's the red light special all through the night. And turn on the red light special. Hey, let me know it. If you know it, you gotta show it.
Oh, that song was sexy, man.
I love that. Was the sexiest. I was way too young to find songs sexy, but I knew that.
I
song
knew it was sexy. I didn't know why though, but I just knew it was sexy. It was like, yeah, and obviously now I'm old, I'm like, yeah, it was pure sex in a song.
Yeah.
But anyway,
sorry, digression.
A huge digression.
What have they got to do with sickle cell?
Right. Serious now. So T-Boz has sickle cell anemia.
Oh.
And obviously she's made it. So T-Boz is 55 years old.
I'm telling you.
And she's
looking like
alive.
a fine wine.
Fine wine.
Black don't crack.
All of that. But 55 with sickle cell anemia is incredible because the life expectancy is not that high. No. And I have friends
what about if you
and
have
family.
trait?
Oh no, the trait's different.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't actually have the full disease. So you carry the gene, and maybe some of your cells are sickle shaped, as opposed to quite a lot of them.
Okay.
So, for me with her, I found such an affinity because she was talking openly about having sickle cell at a time when nobody talked about it at all. Unless you were in the community or you had it running in your family, nobody talked about it. And here she was on a global stage at the height of their career talking about having sickle cell anemia. I'd never seen that before.
So how did Black doctors and sickle cell, your experience of sickle cell, connect from your point of view?
In a way, it's not so much about Black doctors. In a way, that's a bit of a misnomer. What it is about having doctors who understand the things that affect us specifically. So most people may not be aware, but sickle cell is actually the UK's #1 most common genetic condition.
Really?
Absolutely.
More than
cystic fibrosis, which is second.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the statistics are that 1 in 2,000 live births in the UK are
babies with sickle.
Sickle cell.
Trait as well, or
sickle
just
cell
sickle
anemia.
cells, like full blown?
Full blown sickle cell anemia.
Wow.
So sickle cell disease is what they call it. Whereas 1 in 2,500 is cystic fibrosis. So where it becomes a problem is when you look at the amount of funding that's put into the research of these diseases, you find, so according to the National Institute of Health Research, in 2021, if we take that as an example, around 190,000, just under 200,000 was put into sickle cell disease research. But for cystic fibrosis, which is the second most common genetic condition, almost over 500,000.
Wow.
Over 500,000 was put into research into cystic fibrosis. Now, for me, looking at that, just looking at it, trying to be objective, the only difference I can really see is that sickle cell disease predominantly affects Africans and African Caribbeans, whereas cystic fibrosis predominantly affects Northern Europeans or white people, Caucasian people. That's the only difference that I can really see. Now, I know some people argue and say, well, Black people are only 3.5% of the population. If you throw in Asian people, it gets a little bit higher, whereas white people make up 80-something% of our population. But I still feel like it's a massive disservice to our community because not enough research is done. When we go into health systems, they often don't know what to do because a lot of doctors haven't encountered sickle cell anemia or people with it, particularly when you move out of London or areas where we are
less diverse,
that are less diverse. So like, for example, if you're in, I don't know, the north somewhere, in a town that's 99% white, and you turn up having a sickle cell crisis, that's what it's called when you are going through an episode of sickle cell disease, and you turn up at the hospital with sickle cell crisis, they won't know what to do. I don't think that's okay.
No.
That's not okay.
It's staggering. And I guess it leaves me with a question that I want to go and dig into a bit more, which is how does that research funding play out globally? Because I would imagine, North American research funders, for example, will have the same kind of steer towards something like cystic fibrosis over sickle. And then what does that mean for the continent of Africa or the places most impacted? I'm sure I would imagine that picture is mirrored elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I really want to do is I actually want to talk to people on the continent and in North America about what's going on in those spaces. I know that in Africa, the understandings of it are better. And I've actually seen that play out with myself, not sickle cell specifically, but I remember there was a time I had this massive rash on my back in the UK, and it was just spreading. It was a circle, and it was just spreading and spreading.
I think I know what it is. I had this growing up as well. Yeah.
And it was just growing and growing. And I went to the doctor in the UK several times, and he was just like, try this, try that, not sure what it is. Maybe we can do some tests. It was around the time that I was about to travel to Barbados. And so I was like, there's no point. I'm just going to go on holiday if I can't get this thing treated beforehand. So I went out to Barbados. And the person I was seeing at the time was like, I think you should go to the doctors because it's actually spreading and it's starting to get a little bit weepy. It's actually getting bigger.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, fine. So we went to a doctor in Barbados, a black man. He took one look at my back and he said, that's ringworm, use this. And within less than a week, it was gone.
Yeah. I thought it was ringworm because I had that as a kid as well in Botswana. And mine didn't have to spread. First visit to the doctor, done.
Yeah.
Common, understood. People understand how it presents on darker skin.
That was the key.
Which is another thing.
Because it looks different on my skin. Because then when I went back to the UK and looked up pictures of ringworm, it looks so different on black skin than white skin.
Yeah.
And I think that doctor just didn't know how to diagnose, because I don't think ringworm should be that hard to diagnose, but I don't think he understood how to diagnose it on my skin.
Or hadn't seen too many presentations of it. I've never heard of people here getting it so much. It's quite a common thing.
Exactly.
Where I grew up, of course, as well. So they pick it up, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing of what gets picked up in one context, it's super common. I know of women who've said it was better for me to get fibroids in Africa because black women, for example, are disproportionately likely to get them. So 3 times more likely. And the doctors are used to dealing with them.
Right.
And so it's easier to get your surgery and get it done. When I discovered I had fibroids, and I told my mum, it emerged that lots of my aunties and cousins on my mum's side had them.
Right.
And it was just kind of, it wasn't a big deal, but it was kind of a routine issue.
Yes.
Nobody said anything. It's like, oh yeah, that's what we have done.
Yeah.
And there's probably a less developed healthcare system.
Yeah.
It's known.
Yeah.
And in many of these things, down to the research funding and the treatment, they come down to who's in decision-making power about how research funds get spent.
Exactly.
And obviously we're less represented in those spaces. So of course there are fewer people to advocate for sickle cell research funding.
This is it.
Than there are, say cystic fibrosis. I mean, obviously both things need to be funded and looked into.
Fully, I want them both.
A competition. But
yeah, because the problem is, when people who have sickle cell anemia are dying at a young age, I personally feel like that is a crisis for our community.
100%, and needs serious. I mean, I know people who've got siblings who are constantly in and out of hospital with crises as well.
All the time.
I think as black people, most of us know someone.
Yeah, exactly. I know several.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like, we need more black doctors at the highest levels advocating and agitating for more research into this condition that predominantly affects us.
Yeah.
Like you said, at that decision-making level where decisions can be made about where research funding goes. I think we need more black millionaires and billionaires investing into sickle cell research and putting their money into that as well. Supporting charities like the Sickle Cell Foundation, who I've ran for. I've done obstacle courses for them, but it's so little. I want to do so much more. So I think business owners getting behind that. And I think more broadly, we need doctors, regardless of race, across the NHS, which is our National Health Service,
educated to understand how these things present.
Yeah, and not just sickle cell, but understanding how different things show up on our bodies, because it doesn't look the same. Whether you talk about meningitis or whatever it is, it doesn't show up the same on our skin. And I think the leaflets that they give out that show how things manifest should have both light skin and dark skin?
Yeah.
How does it present?
Different presentations. Talking of this issue and the need for more of it, I've actually got a personal hero in this space. So do you remember on our last Notes from the Margins when we talked about Hillman Talk?
Yes.
And about this virtual learning space. So
she's brilliant.
She was amazing.
Yeah.
There is another brilliant man called Joel Burvell. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I've only ever seen it written down, but he has been he's a black doctor, incredible in the online space with his TikToks. He's very active on LinkedIn, has a massive following, and has done a very similar thing to Hillman Talk in that he does these short videos that talk about racial inequality and medical bias and race online. And I love it because they're short form content that just tell you that he goes into how different things present on different skin color. He talks about disparities in maternal health. He talks about endometriosis, which again, black women are far later to be diagnosed. That's one that I have as well. Most people wait too long. And this is also a gender thing. Who's deciding about research funding? Men. So women are often suffering as well because we're not represented there. And I just think he's absolutely fantastic. And just yesterday, he won one of the highest honours you can get in storytelling. And we're recording this on the 2nd of May, so this was on the 1st of May. He won the Peabody Award.
What?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Unanimously voted by every judge for all his work on tackling racial injustice.
I love
So when
that.
I talk about...
Can we get him on the show?
Oh, God, that would be a dream. It would be an absolute dream. When I say... what we're doing, bringing together media, communications, storytelling and research, it's people like him that I find really inspiring because, you know, doctors, like everyone, they're busy people. How are they going to take in that information? Actually, short form content by people who come from that community is critical.
Absolutely.
I just love what he's done.
Yeah.
And then another one who I also, you may remember this. So back in 2021, I remember there was this diagram of a black baby in utero that went viral. Do you remember?
I remember that. That was during the pandemic.
Yes.
Yes.
And the creator of that diagram at the time, I believe, was a first-year medical student in Nigeria called Chidiebere. And he had created these diagrams. And I think what happened for me and a lot of other people when we saw them on Instagram was, oh my goodness, we've been swimming in a world where whenever we've seen pictures of babies in utero diagrams, they're white bodies and white fetuses. And for me, it was like, of course I know that intellectually, but there was something about seeing this diagram that just made me go, oh, wow. The levels of that bias are so stark because how did I get to the big age of mid-30s and not know that. Ever have seen a black mum and baby visualized.
Which is shocking.
Absolutely shocking. But again, like you say, the need, this is what happens when more of us are in the medical profession. We have social media, we can share and change that kind of landscape.
So more doctors educated about the things that affect us as the black community.
Absolutely. If you're loving what you're hearing, please don't just listen.
Hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.
It keeps you in the flow.
And us doing what we love.
Thanks so much for subscribing and thanks for riding with Rigour Flow.
Thank you. So what are you bringing to the table? I heard something about saving the bairns.
The bairns?
The bairns.
Is the bairns a word for children?
Yeah, Scottish. The wee bairn.
Do you know, isn't Swedish the word for children björn?
Oh, is
something,
it?
Or barn or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Isn't there baby
actually
björn
butchering?
Yeah.
I'm sure something like that. Anyway,
maybe we should just stick to English.
Let's stick to English.
Yeah. I think that's a language that we're quite competent in. So let's just stick to that.
And this is why the English get accused of never learning anyone's language.
Exactly. We don't want to hear babino, bambino, babino. Let's just stick to English. Let's just go. Okay.
Stay in our lanes.
Let's stay in our lanes
Okay.
where we can slay.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Save the Children, the charity. What do you know about Save the Children?
They're a charity that saved the children.
Is that the extent of your knowledge?
I somehow can see the logo. It's like a kind of stick figure, but It looks like,
Maybe
you
a
know,
child.
maybe a child, yeah. And it looks like you know when they paint a picture on the road of like children are crossing now?
Oh, right, okay.
And it's like a sign near schools and it has like that figure. I feel like that's kind of similar to the logo Save the Children. I'm going to stop talking now. Let's just crack on.
Anyway, there is a logo. It is red and white.
I don't know what they're saving the children from or where.
A lot of things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then I don't know too much, so tell me.
Okay.
I've never been saved. I was never saved by them as a child.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear.
They didn't come to save me.
Oh, no.
I don't think I needed... maybe I did need saving at various points, actually. Episode 1, episode 2.
I feel like there's enough episodes that maybe it would have been helpful to have Save the Children around. Anyway, the Save the Children are a UK-based charity, and they make sure children are basically safe, healthy, and kept from harm. And
in the UK,
around the world.
Okay.
But they are UK-based. Okay. So they're an interesting one because essentially they focus on the UK, but they're kind of an international development charity. That is a whole world to get into for another episode because there's a lot to say about that sector.
Colonisation.
But they work on all kinds of things that are super important, like maternal health, making sure babies are safe, newborn health, education, reuniting families when they've been displaced by war, food, medicine. So quite essential support that's needed. And as you can imagine, they've been quite involved in Gaza of late. Okay. So they're providing critical, I suppose, quite life-saving, important support to communities that are often impacted by things like war.
Okay.
So that's who they are. If you had to imagine who their founder was, from what I've said, international development charity, who would you expect it to be? Do you have a picture in your head?
There's 2 archetypes that spring to my mind. I mean, it's saving the children. So I would imagine an older, upper middle class white woman or a white man who's maybe involved in like religious things, who God told him to save the children or something.
I imagined the second of those.
Okay.
A bit narcissistic, savioristic man.
Okay.
But actually, your first prototype is actually quite accurate.
Yes.
Yes. However, okay, there are some other things. So, Save the Children was established by a woman called Eglantyne Jebb.
Say what?
Eglantyne. Not only do I love it because her name has the word egg in it, and you know how much I love eggs.
We've had to really wean you off those eggs.
I've had to because my cholesterol problems.
Literally.
Hereditary cholesterol problems. But yeah, it was founded by a woman who is exactly the prototype of like upper middle class, pretty affluent woman. But she founded the organisation at the end of World War I because she had seen the effect of famine on children in Austria-Hungary at the end of the war.
Austria and Hungary? Or?
Yeah, in Austria, Hungary and Germany, that sort of area, because she'd moved to live there, I believe, for the last 10 years of her life. Obviously, she was quite affluent. She read history at Lady Margaret Hall in Oxford, but she had intended to become a school teacher, and she was just very invested in children. And how she started it was that a few months after the First World War, as a 35-year-old woman, so not that old, she started handing out leaflets in Trafalgar Square campaigning about the situation of these children and showing like these really shocking photos of emaciated children with the headline, "Our blockade has caused this. Millions of children are starving to death," right, in the context of this war.
Okay.
And because of her protest, just doing something that allows children to have their basic needs met, she was arrested and she was tried for that protest about the impact of the post-war in Eastern Europe. And at her trial, she was found guilty. But the prosecuting counsel was so impressed with her that he offered to pay her £5 fine so that she could be released. And that was the first donation ever to Save the Children.
Oh, wow.
That story. So there's that. But that's not the thing. You're right about the prototype. That's not the thing I liked about her. Do you know what else about her?
She is an avid golfer.
Where did she get that? No, that is not correct.
She could be.
She could be. She may have been. I don't know that much about
Ladies
her.
who golf.
Ladies who golf. I think those are usually ladies who lunch when they're of her background, but it sounds like she was the more activist type. Something else about her. Mm-hmm. Not only is she the person who drafted the Declaration of the Rights of the Child
Into law.
Oh,
wow.
A legally binding international agreement that set out the rights of every child. She was also a raging lesbian. She's one of us.
Yes.
When I discovered that, everything made sense.
It makes sense. Look, do you know what? A lot of the really important things that happen for women and children are often led by single women and lesbian women. I don't know.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because, well, single women have time. They're not running around after grown adult men.
They're just too busy being powerful.
Do you know what I mean? They've got free time. They've got more disposable income. They've got more choice. Maybe things are changing now, but certainly back then. And if you were a lesbian, I mean, you just didn't exist. So you could just do stuff under the cloak of night.
Yeah. Including get arrested, apparently.
Get arrested, chain yourself to stuff, agitate. You're not playing into patriarchy in the same way. You don't have that same deference to patriarchy, particularly in that, 1930s.
Yeah.
There was no deference there at all towards it because you just weren't part of that heterosexual, heteronormative world. So you just did your thing, how you wanted to do it, with the same kind of agency that a man would, right?
It's true. And I have to say, obviously there's many, many powerful women of all sexual orientations. Of course. However, I have noticed, even in the way my relationships played out, that there's something about being in relationships with men where you often end up downplaying and not being too big and too powerful.
Yeah, of
because
course.
you kind of keep yourself a bit smaller, I think.
It damages, it can be detrimental to their egos. Whereas if you don't have to deal with that as a single woman or a lesbian, then you just get on with it.
You just get cracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, it transpires that she had this 20-year love affair with Margaret Keynes, who is the sister of Maynard Keynes, famous economist. And they wrote back and forth to each other, had this super intense love affair. In one of the letters, she wrote to Margaret, "I love you more than words can say." And Margaret replied, "What is the pain of separation compared to the thrill and joy of the thought that you love me and that we truly belong to each other and that it can never be otherwise. I am devoted to you."
That is beautiful.
It was. Apparently they had like all these exchanges talking about what would happen if they lived in a world where they could live together as a married couple.
Like us.
Yeah. They didn't have that.
We are their
wildest dreams.
Wildest dreams.
We really are. But then it takes a bit of a turn.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Lord Jesus.
I know.
Okay, go on.
Because after this intense, loving relationship, it ended because Margaret went off and got married to some guy called Archibald Hill in 1913. I know.
Damn you, Archibald.
Archibald was just a reckless scoundrel.
Oh, Margaret.
That was a bit sad. I only found that out when I dug deeper because I had heard the nice fantasy
that
lesbian
would have been
story.
So harrowing, you know. What about Eglantyne? Did she
that's
go
what
on
I
to
wonder.
marry someone?
I don't know. There's nothing that suggests that she did in the bit of research that I did. I only found out about her.
That's serious heartbreak.
I actually want to go and find
more. I want to find out more. And if she has
Read
any
a book.
descendants or anything anything like that. I think that's a really beautiful story.
Up until Archibald.
Up until bloody Archibald. Bastard bitch. But a really beautiful love affair.
It is. I do really want to know what happened.
I imagine
though.
the heartbreak, though, was
crushing.
Crushing, you know. There's nothing worse than heartbreak, man.
Yeah.
That stuff is quite... Especially when you love a person to that level.
I was going to say, imagine you've been in a 20-year love affair and you're watching the person you love
walk down the aisle
with some guy.
I know.
I mean, I don't even know about Margaret. Was she bi? Did their thing fall apart? Like, what happened?
I wonder if it was a lavender marriage. Maybe she married Archibald in order to continue her love affair with Eglantyne.
That's a really good question.
It could have been a lavender marriage, and he was actually up for it. He was like, look, I'll give you the cloak of decency.
Maybe he was in love with some other man.
Exactly. He was in love with Edgar.
That's my fantasy.
There we go.
So if anybody more informed knows the story of Margaret Keynes and Eglantyne and Archibald. We want to know.
We want to know. And if you're a descendant, definitely want to know because you're coming on this show.
We want to interview you.
Yes. In this final section of our notes from the margins, we are answering a community question that two completely separate people sent in. So last season, we kind of put the call out and said, look, if you have a question, get in touch with us at rigorandflow@gmail.com. And people did. And this question came from your mum, Ma Walker, and one came from Travis Baxter, who we work with at our company. But they both asked the same thing. I think you should tell us what Ma Walker asked.
Okay.
And I think you should do it in her voice.
Okay, fine. So I like that they're probably roughly the same age. So there's something intergenerational about this. Yeah. But anyway, this one came from my mum. She had listened to the first episode on whether you can be African, Christian and queer, basically.
Yes.
And she said via WhatsApp, we listened to all of the podcast. Long, but informative. I think I don't like or I'm not comfortable with the word queer. To which I replied, interesting. Lots of people aren't. What don't you like about it? And she said, it seems negative to reference the being different. And I was like, okay, that's actually a fair point. And I was like, well, I kind of feel like this is a generational thing. Your generation obviously has this like really negative connotation. And, you know, like our generation is much more comfortable with this word. Not all of us, but most of us. And then she said, well, hopefully you can cover that in your podcast as to why it's correct for different generations. So I was like, I'm really butchering my mum's accent probably. But I noticed when I'm trying to do it, I'm not good at it. But when I just automatically slip into it at home, I'm probably better.
I like it.
So that's what she was.
That was a question.
She had to say.
And obviously Travis had a similar question. And
I think Travis's was quite different. Travis was like, so I've seen what you've written about. I've seen what you're suggesting doing for your podcast. And can you talk to me about the word queer? You know, I just. So we had very different asks, but
African,
the same ask.
Direct, English. Can we maybe address possibly this situation around the word
How should I
queer?
Understand it? You know? Okay.
We love them both. Like we adore them both.
We do. And also Travis was very much asked it how my dad would have asked it. So I feel like it was almost like watching my mum and dad have a conversation across a pond that they didn't know they were having.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think, you know, there are people even of our generation who don't like the word queer because they feel like it erases their sexual identity. It's like, I am a gay man, I'm not queer. I am a lesbian woman, I'm not queer. I am bisexual, I am not queer. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. They feel like there's an erasure there of their actual sexual identity.
Yeah, of course.
Or gender identity. So
I think there's different. So like, let's first talk about why it's so controversial for people like my mum or Travis, for that generation.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
It's because the roots of the word like go really back far in the English language, and originally when it was
really
used,
back far.
English
researcher.
The roots of the words are a bit kind of dodgy, let's say that. So it was originally a word used to mean strange or odd or peculiar, and I think that's the thing my mum was pushing back against.
And she was responding to that. Yeah.
Because it became a really derogatory slur for LGBT people.
Yeah.
I guess in the 19th century, I would imagine, when purity culture in Victorian Britain, that would be my guess anyway. Yeah, 19th century.
Yeah.
Purity culture. So yeah, I guess that's why they may struggle with it so much, because even when they were growing up, it was still very much a slur. Whereas today it's different. People have reclaimed the word.
Kind of like the N-word that we spoke about in episode 2, where we spoke about the use of the N-word and how actually it had been reclaimed back in the late 80s and 90s. But if you were born in, I don't know, the early 20th century, it was a horrible, derogatory, violent word.
Yeah.
So I do get it.
Yeah.
You know, it can be hard for someone who's like 70 to hear black kids calling each other the N-word.
Yeah.
As it must be for your mum to hear us calling ourselves queer.
Yeah, and also to imagine that other people would call their child that.
Yes, that's true.
So it's interesting. I haven't asked her which bit of it she's struggling with. Is it that somebody? Is it also because she's unpacking and getting used to that? Is it because I don't know? I imagine there's a lot of complicated things.
I think there is. It's not easy. Words are so powerful, and the conditioning around words goes very deep, right? So it can be hard to undo that conditioning.
Yeah.
I know sometimes I hear a word and it almost slices through my heart.
Oh, that's a perfect description.
Do you know what I mean? Because words are powerful.
Yeah, it slices to you, and you find yourself steeling yourself about an impending blow. What's the next word going to be?
Exactly.
If it comes out the wrong mouth in the wrong way at the wrong time.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
So how do you personally feel about use of the word queer? Do you see yourself in that term?
I think, do you know what it is? The word lesbian, I don't like. And so queer for me feels more manageable. I've never liked the word lesbian. It feels weird in my mouth. It just feels like a weird word. It looks weird on the page. And there's just something about it that I just don't like. So when queer became a thing, it was like, oh, I quite like that. Because I think even as a person, I'm a little bit odd anyway. I've always been the awkward black girl. I'm a nerd. I've always existed on the fringes because of my background, not being able to really be a full part of my peers, of, you know, the world, because we were supposed to be in the world, but not of the world.
Okay,
so I've
so
always
religiously there was an element.
Yes, we were always a bit odd. The way we dressed was odd. The way we worshipped was odd. The fact that we went to church 6 days a week was odd. The fact that I couldn't play out with my friends was odd. And then being an only child, not being able to go anywhere, you have your own little world, your own imaginary friends, and you're obsessed with like the cassette tapes and stuff like, you know what I mean?
Nerdy things that you entertain yourself with.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but also you've talked about feeling kind of on the fringes in the school, in the sense that you weren't with the girls, you were mostly with the boys.
Exactly.
At times.
I really enjoyed that. I was a tomboy and I preferred their company to the girls' company. And then as you get older still, and then you become a part of the so-called, I'm going to put in quotes, LGBTQ plus community, you feel at odds there because you're not quite like them either, if that makes sense.
How do you feel you didn't fit in there then?
I feel like there's almost like some unwritten rules about the correct way to be queer or to be LGBTQ plus, and I don't fit them. So for example, one of them is I run a business, and it's a capitalistic business in the sense that I go out, I price my services, I make a profit, and I reinvest some of that profit into the business, and then I take some of the profit for myself, and I'm actively trying to grow and develop my business. It's a business that is for profit. And I feel like sometimes there's a thing around that, particularly I'd say more on the queer, maybe not gay. I think the gay men are a bit more
capitalistic.
Not capitalistic, but
they
they're
benefit
a bit more,
from the pink pound.
The
it's
pink
what it's
pound,
called.
yeah. I don't want to make too many assertions, but
No,
certainly I think in that sort of more social impacty, activisty space, it's very anti this capitalism and almost anti-money almost. I don't know. It's like, you know, cooperatives and, you know, we live in large houses together, stuff like that, stuff that's just not, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get cancelled so much.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think also some of the problems is the way that people just use capitalism as a catch-all, because when we're talking about capitalism, we're often talking about people who really own stupid amounts of money. To be a business owner and
it's
to
not
have
even
profit,
capitalism,
to be sustainable
really.
is a totally different question.
Exactly.
And yet there can be this, you know, I call it a bit the cult of queer, you know, because there can be that, not just with money stuff, but it can, I found things have got better in time, but that may also because I've become more comfortable in my own queer identity. But I have said to you a few times, I've never experienced more policing around gender and sexuality sometimes than in the queer community itself.
Exactly.
And that is a very fascinating thing to me. And in fact, just going back to this question of how do you feel about the word queer, one of the reasons I liked the word queer was because it was a catch-all for so many things that I didn't want to have to pick or choose or say one thing or be now defined or limited by this new box when it came to my gender or sexuality identity. It's an umbrella term, queer, that encapsulates a whole range of people who have non-normative gender or sexual orientation based identities, right? So lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, asexual, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I felt like so much pressure when I first came out to be one thing. And when I did state one thing as bi or pansexual, which is open to a range of different sexual identities and gender identities, it was still like, that's not a real thing almost. So I was just like, it was helpful from my point of view to have this umbrella term.
It's freeing.
Yeah.
I find it quite freeing.
Yeah.
You know? And I think hopefully we're going to talk about that a little bit in one of our future episodes. Just this idea that you have this, like if you are a lesbian, there's a right or wrong way to be a lesbian.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just
even that's the weird policing. It's like you've got the lipstick lesbians, then you've got the butches, then you've got to be one of them. You've got to be all mask or all femme, and it's just like, guys, calm down.
Calm down.
Like, we are literally creating this community to get away from these other expectations and standards. And now we're imposing new boxes. Like, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense.
So I think for us, we like the word queer. I know I'll continue to use it because it makes sense for me. But I do understand the discomfort that generation has with the word queer.
But also, add on, it's not just that generation. I definitely dated someone of our generation who hated the word.
Okay.
I don't know, have you come across that?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay. Well, I dated a woman who I referred to myself as queer, and she was like, I hate that word. And I was like, well, what word do you prefer? And she was like, lesbian. I was like, okay. So then I only ever referred to her as lesbian. But even every time I used the word queer, it was almost like she wanted me to stop using it. And
Even
I was
for
just
yourself?
like, yeah. And it was just all like, she was just so
not okay.
uncomfortable with it. And I was like, I get it. I get why you aren't comfortable with it, and I totally respect you. But for me, it's liberating.
Yeah.
So it's like,
same.
You know, it's quite an individual thing in some ways as well, even
Agreed.
if this generation has changed. You talked about the reclaiming of the N-word. One other thing to mention is that it's been a bit different in queer spaces because there's actually been an academic movement attached to it, queer theory, which has been about making more inclusive spaces. So I think that's another reason our generation have reclaimed it.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Well, I think that's it for this week's episode of Notes from the Margins.
It is. And please, please, please hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. Yeah, the comments are really good. Like, we sometimes just sit up, like, reading the comments and going, oh my God, people are listening to us.
Yeah, and how should we respond?
And how should we respond?
And which ones we want to take into an episode, which should we respond to now? So yeah, we love it.
We really, really love hearing from you. So definitely leave a comment, because all round it helps us to be seen by the algorithm and helps other people to find us.
And just helps us have more fun. We like hearing what's like struck a chord with you.
Yeah, interactivity is key.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.